Welcome to another episode of Read and Reflect. Today, we're diving into one of Charles Dickens's most famous works, A Tale of Two Cities. Published in 1859, this novel is set against the turbulent backdrop of the French Revolution and contrasts the lives of people in two cities, Paris and London. Before we get into the story, let's talk a little about Charles Dickens himself. Dickens was born in 1812 in Portsmouth, England, and grew up in a family that struggled with financial hardship. When he was just 12 years old, his father was sent to debtor's prison, and young Charles was forced to work in a factory to support his family. These early experiences left a deep mark on him, shaping his lifelong concern with poverty, injustice, and social reform. Dickens believed passionately in the need for compassion and humanity in a world that was often cruel and indifferent, especially toward the poor. His novels, filled with vivid characters and unforgettable scenes, were not just entertainment. They were social critiques, calling attention to the struggles of the working class and the failures of the legal and social systems of his time. Dickens is often credited with influencing public opinion and even helping to drive some reforms in Victorian England. His ability to blend storytelling with a powerful moral vision has made him one of the most important and beloved writers in English literature. It's also crucial to understand the historical and social context in which A Tale of Two Cities was written. Dickens was living in Victorian England, a time of great social tension and rapid industrial change. Though the novel is set during the French Revolution nearly a century earlier, Dickens was deeply concerned about the unrest he saw growing around him in his own time. Massive wealth gaps, widespread poverty, and harsh working conditions had created a climate of resentment and fear in Britain. Dickens saw the French Revolution as a warning, a historical moment when injustice and inequality exploded into horrific violence. Through his novel, he sends a clear message. If society does not address its inequalities and suffering, history could repeat itself. Dickens used A Tale of Two Cities not just to tell a gripping story, but to issue a serious call for social conscience and reform to his readers. At its core, A Tale of Two Cities explores themes of resurrection, sacrifice, and the stark differences between the aristocracy and the common people. The novel opens with one of the most famous lines in all of literature. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. This brilliant opening captures the contradictions of the era and sets the tone for the entire novel. A time when hope and despair lived side by side. The plot focuses on the intertwined lives of a few key characters, most notably Charles Darnay, a French aristocrat who renounces his family's cruel legacy, and Sidney Carton, a disillusioned English lawyer who believes himself to be wasted and unworthy. One of the novel's most moving quotes comes from Carton's own journey of redemption when he says, "I care for no man on earth, and no man on earth cares for me." Yet by the end of the novel, Carton's story is transformed by love and sacrifice. In one of literature's most unforgettable final scenes, as Carton faces death to save another, he reflects, "It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I have ever known." This line embodies the novel's powerful message of rebirth through selflessness and love. Throughout the book, Dickens also offers sharp commentary on revolution and revenge. At one point, he chillingly observes, "Crush humanity out of shape once more, under similar hammers, and it will twist itself into the same tortured forms." This warning reminds readers that cruelty and injustice will always breed more cruelty if the root causes aren't addressed. One of the most important themes in the novel is resurrection. The idea of rebirth appears throughout the story, starting with Dr. Manette's release from 18 years of wrongful imprisonment. His physical and psychological resurrection mirrors the broader social awakening occurring in France. Similarly, Sidney Carton's transformation, from a disillusioned, wasted man into a heroic figure who sacrifices himself for love, shows that personal redemption is possible even in the darkest circumstances. Carton's final act is both deeply personal and universal. He becomes a symbol of hope, a soul reborn through selfless love. Another central theme is sacrifice. Dickens suggests that meaningful change often comes through suffering and selflessness. Sidney Carton's willingness to die for Charles Darnay, and by extension for Lucie Manette's happiness, is the novel's ultimate act of love and renewal. His famous final words, "It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done," capture this ideal of personal sacrifice leading to spiritual resurrection. The novel also examines injustice and revolution. Dickens portrays the French aristocracy as detached, cruel, and indifferent to the suffering of the poor, as symbolized by the Marquis Saint-Evremond. Yet Dickens does not glorify the revolution either. Through the depiction of the mob mentality, the reign of terror, and figures like Madame Defarge, he shows that unchecked anger and revenge can become as destructive as the injustices they seek to overthrow. In this way, A Tale of Two Cities warns against cycles of violence, suggesting that true justice must be tempered with mercy and humanity. Duality is another major literary device in the novel. Dickens constantly sets up contrasts. Paris and London, good and evil, oppression and freedom, death and rebirth. Even Sidney Carton and Charles Darnay are physical doubles. Two men who look alike but live very different lives. The famous opening line, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times," sets the tone for a world of sharp contradictions and reflects the instability of the era. In terms of structure and style, Dickens uses a tight, almost cinematic narrative, full of suspense and interconnected characters. The novel's three-part structure, Recalled to Life, The Golden Thread, and The Track of a Storm, mirrors the stages of transformation and revolution. His vivid, almost theatrical descriptions, use of repetition, and symbolic imagery, like the echoing footsteps and the constant wine imagery, create a feeling of inevitability and mounting tension. A Tale of Two Cities is notable for its moral vision. Dickens believed deeply in the possibility of human goodness even in times of darkness. While he shows the horror and cruelty of revolution, he also highlights the redemptive power of love, compassion, and sacrifice. The novel ends not in despair, but with the hope that out of great suffering, a better, more just world can emerge. In short, A Tale of Two Cities is not just a historical novel. It is a meditation on human nature itself, our capacity for cruelty, but also our profound capacity for redemption, love, and change. I want to spend some time talking about the unforgettable characters that bring this story to life. Let's start with one of the most fascinating figures, Sidney Carton. At first, Carton seems like a wasted man, brilliant but broken, cynical, and self-destructive. He once says, "I care for no man on earth, and no man on earth cares for me." But underneath that despair is a deep well of love and potential. His love for Lucie Manette awakens something noble inside him. In the end, Sidney Carton finds redemption, sacrificing his own life so that another man might live. His final words, "It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done," remind us that even the most lost souls can find greatness through love and selflessness. Now let's talk about Charles Darnay. Darnay is an aristocrat by birth but rejects his family's cruel legacy. He's honorable, courageous, and determined to build a life based on merit, not privilege. In many ways, Darnay is what the old aristocracy could have been, moral and compassionate. While he doesn't have the emotional depth of Carton, Darnay's importance lies in what he represents, the possibility of a new, fairer society. Next, we come to Lucie Manette, the emotional heart of the novel. Lucie is often described as the golden thread that binds the characters together. Her love and compassion are powerful forces that heal the broken, especially her father and Sidney Carton. While some critics see her as too idealized, Dickens clearly wanted her to symbolize stability, hope, and the enduring strength of kindness in a brutal world. Speaking of healing, let's move to Dr. Alexander Manette. Dr. Manette's journey is one of resurrection. Wrongfully imprisoned for 18 years, he emerges from the Bastille shattered, but through Lucie's love, he slowly rebuilds his life. His occasional relapses show how deep injustice can scar a person. His story mirrors the broader struggle of a society trying to recover after immense trauma. But not all characters are agents of healing. Enter Madame Defarge, one of Dickens's most chilling villains. Madame Defarge embodies the Revolution's dark side, vengeance without mercy. Her endless knitting, secretly recording the names of those doomed to die, becomes a powerful symbol of unstoppable, mechanical revenge. Her hatred is personal and understandable, rooted in genuine suffering. Yet Dickens warns us that revenge, once unleashed, can consume everything, including justice itself. Her husband, Ernest Defarge, gives us a slightly more complicated picture. He supports the revolution but often shows hesitation at its bloodier turns. He represents those caught between a yearning for justice and the horror of the violence that justice sometimes demands. And then there's Jarvis Lorry, one of my personal favorites. Mr. Lorry starts off seeing himself simply as a man of business. But as the story unfolds, we see his incredible loyalty, compassion, and quiet heroism, especially in his devotion to the Manette family. He's proof that even the most ordinary people can perform extraordinary acts of kindness. Finally, the Marquis Saint Evremond, a pure symbol of aristocratic cruelty. The Marquis is cold, arrogant, and utterly indifferent to human suffering. He even runs over a child with his carriage without a flicker of remorse. His death is not presented as a tragedy but almost as a grim inevitability, a sign that a society built on injustice is doomed to fall. Each of these characters, whether they bring hope or horror, builds the powerful emotional landscape of A Tale of Two Cities. In a broader sense, Dickens critiques the deep class inequalities that led to the Revolution, showing how cycles of suffering and violence can consume even the best intentions. The novel asks profound questions about social justice, personal sacrifice, and the hope for renewal in a broken world. A Tale of Two Cities holds a crucial place in contemporary literature because it bridges the gap between historical fiction and social commentary, a model many modern authors still follow. Dickens showed that historical settings could be used not just to recount past events, but to explore timeless human struggles, oppression, sacrifice, injustice, and redemption. His vivid, emotionally charged storytelling paved the way for later writers like Hilary Mantel, Colson Whitehead, and Toni Morrison, who use history as a lens to examine present-day moral and political issues. Dickens's technique of using sharply drawn characters to embody broader social forces is echoed in countless novels today, from historical dramas to dystopian fiction. His ability to create universal themes out of a specific time and place has ensured that A Tale of Two Cities remains a foundational text, influencing how contemporary literature tackles memory, revolution, trauma, and hope. Teaching A Tale of Two Cities in schools remains incredibly important because it introduces students to essential ideas about justice, sacrifice, and the dangers of societal extremes. In a world that is still grappling with inequality, political unrest, and the consequences of revolution, Dickens's warning about the cycles of violence feels as urgent as ever. The novel challenges students to think critically about how history shapes society and how compassion and personal integrity can break destructive cycles. It also exposes students to rich literary techniques, like symbolism, irony, and dual narrative structure, that are key to understanding more advanced literature. Beyond its historical and literary value, A Tale of Two Cities encourages empathy. It asks readers to see the humanity in others, even across lines of conflict and suffering. In short, it is not just a novel about the past. It's a story that helps shape more thoughtful, compassionate citizens for the future. Whether you're reading it for the first time or revisiting it, A Tale of Two Cities is a timeless story that resonates with themes of transformation, justice, and the complexities of human nature. Its unforgettable characters and sweeping historical narrative make it a cornerstone of classic literature. That's a quick overview of A Tale of Two Cities. Stick around for a deeper discussion on its major themes and what we can learn from this powerful tale of love, sacrifice, and revolution. Thanks for listening to Read and Reflect. Join us next time as we explore another theme that grapples with the complexities of human nature and societal structures. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode if you liked it. Until next time, keep reading, keep reflecting, and stay vigilant. And remember, time is not a line, it's a choice.